Hello everybody, welcome to the second video of the USMLEowesome series. This video is on preparing for the step 1 exam. The intended audience for this video is anyone who has started preparing for the exam and want to know more about the test taking strategies and study tips. Understanding the step 1 score is something that I forgot to include in my last video on about the USMLE exam. There are these links on the USMLE.org website which explain how the score is reported and how to interpret the score. What's a good score? Anything above the mean is a good score. However, I would encourage you to aim for the highest possible score. Now, what's the highest possible score? Well, usually the mean is about 225 to 230 depending on when you take the exam. Friends and people that I know have gotten like 240s, 250s. Some of the people that I know have gotten 260s, 270s and 280s also. So sky's the limit. Aim for the highest possible score. Is gonna make your life really easy. A good score makes things easier. Remember that you cannot retake the exam, which means that if you pass with a low score, your score is gonna stick with you for a long time. So say if you pass the exam with a low score, it takes 7 years, I believe, for the score to expire if you do not take any other exams in that 7-year period, which is a long time. So do not give the exam if you're not prepared for the exam. If you fail the exam, however, you can retake the exam. However, when you fail an exam, it's a big red flag on your CV, and again, do not take the exam if you're not prepared for it. How to start preparing for the exam? I would say there are two phases to it. One is getting the knowledge, and this phase is passively done throughout your MBBS when you're in your first year and your second year and you're learning about biochemistry and pathology and things. That's when you're getting all the knowledge passively. Questions is the part where you test your knowledge. So I highly insist that you solve your questions early on in your prep, because when you read materials passively, you think you know everything, you feel like you just know everything, but once you solve your questions, that's when you get like things wrong, and you know your weaknesses, you know that you really don't know your material, or some parts you might know really well, but the other parts you might be lacking details required to get the answers right. So start solving early on. If you do not want to solve UWorld early, you can try other clue banks such as USMLE RX, Kaplan. There are a lot of clue banks online, but I would really highly recommend that you start solving questions early. Some of my readers have also asked me about the duration of preparation, or how much time is required to prepare for the exam, and I think there's no real answer to this question. It just depends on how much you know from your med school and how much knowledge you really have when you start preparing. So some people might take 3 months to 6 months to prepare and give the exam off. However, others might take 1 or 2 years to give this exam. So there's really no right answer to it. Question solving strategies. So here are some things that you should keep in mind while you're solving questions in your practice test. And the most important thing is to be quick, because time management is really important in this exam. The questions that you see in your prep test aren't as long enough as they are in the real exam. The real exam questions are really, really long, and if you're not quick in solving the questions, you won't even get time to solve 2 or 3 questions per block, which will make you lose out on your score, and you don't want that. So practice, and the more you bleed in practice, the less you bleed in war, or something. I messed up that quote. Analysis is something that you should do when you are picking up the right answer. So think to yourself, could the other options also be right? And could my answer be wrong? It really helps you, know your matter. Like, if you're just guessing the right answer, you're not doing it right. You should exactly know why this answer is correct and why the other answers are wrong. getting inside the examiner's head. This is something what my friend and I used to do. I gave my exam in 2014, which is a long time ago, but I still like thinking about what the examiner was thinking while they were writing this question. What did they want to test? What confused me? What did I not know about this question? Whenever you get a question wrong, you have to think about all these things. And even while solving the question, you can think about what is the examiner trying to test, and what is the tricky part over here. Well, I'm also part of a question writing team on one of the question banks, and we purposely try to make the question tricky so that students who do not know their material well enough can get it wrong. And writing questions has made me realize that there will always be hints required to answer the question correctly in the question stem itself. So it's just about knowing your material and knowing what the examiner is after. If you narrow down the options to two correct options and they both seem equally applicable, you're missing a vital data point and you have to find the missing link. How to solve UWorld. So there are must-dos and may-dos for UWorld. UWorld is a very important question bank and is very crucial for your step 1 prep. I would recommend that you start early, but do it seriously. Do not casually solve the UWorld questions. You have to understand the concept. You have to know the question in detail. However, you're not supposed to memorize the question and answer, because sometimes you will find yourself going through the question bank again and you just get the question right because of the recall associated with the right answer. You really don't want that. You want to understand the question and get the question right because you understand it, not because you've memorized it. And have fun with the questions. They're brilliantly written. I just loved admiring the beauty of the question writer sometimes and be like, wow, this is such a well written question. So yeah, enjoy learning. Don't be sad and stressed while solving questions. Just enjoy doing what you do. May-dos is something that I recommend, but it's not necessary to do. I would enjoy solving questions in the random mode, so you could relate to different subjects, and just having a mix of the question does not make things boring for me. And it's just how the exam is. The exam will be filled with mixed questions, and so that's why you should practice with a random mode. However, a lot of students finish it subject-wise or topic-wise. So they would do cardiovascular first or biochemistry first and then anatomy. And I think that's a very strong way to prepare, as in you finish biochemistry completely, you finish your reading, your theory, and finish solving questions. It's a very strong way to prepare, but it's not something that I can do because I really get bored easily and I need a random mode and a random mix of subjects to keep things different, Timed mode is something that I recommend because, like I said, time management is used on the exam and it's a drill. You have to keep practicing. You have to be quick in the exam. Test-taking strategies. Some of them read the last line of the question first, then go through the options and then read the vignette. Even though this strategy is preferred by a lot of test takers, some of them might not agree to it. They'll be like, it just waste your time by reading the lead first and the options first. I think it might or may not be helpful depending on the scenario. Just reading the last line first and having the options gives you an idea about what the question might be about and helps you look for the appropriate hints to answer the question correctly, but it might not work, Highlighting key information as you read, it really helps save time and you don't have to reread the question over and over again. USMLE questions are really long, like they're like paragraphs long, and you have to highlight the important vital information so that if you're not getting enough hints while you read it for the first time, you can read the second time only the highlighted information the second time. Strike out all the other wrong answers. It just avoids missing out any other option that you did not think of. And the bane of knowledge is to forget. So even though you're solving a lot of questions and going through a lot of study material, You will forget things that you read 2 months earlier just because you did not revise it. So I highly recommend that you revise whatever you read often. You can just make notes while doing questions in your first aid, and then keep revising the first aid book, or any other notebook where you made your notes. Just keep revising them. I did not use Anki while doing my step 1, but I used it for step 2 CK and step 3, and I found it really helpful because it helps you revise digitally on a daily basis. So if I'm on my phone and I'm just waiting in a grocery queue, or I'm waiting on a bus stop, I'll just go through my flashcards, and it's really simple. I don't have to carry books with me, so I love Anki. NBMEs, UWSAs, and mock exams. So I would recommend that you give an NBME after a good strong prep, and do not waste your NBME by just solving it casually um, on a late night after drinking tequila shots. No, you have to take this exam seriously. It's like a practice test for the real exam. It's 4 hours long. The real exam is 8 hours or 7 hours long. So I would do the NBMEs for 4 hours at a stretch. And the NBMEs are designed to estimate your real score, but it's a plus or minus 10 points. So if you scored a 230 on your mock, it means you could score a 240 or a 220 in your real exam, and you have to be aware of this possibility. This is what my senior said. He said postpone your NBME if it's less than 230. If your score is less than 230, your score is more important than your ego. And that's really, really important to keep in mind. If you're not getting enough score on your NBME or UWSAs, do not give the exam. Take a break, study harder, do what you need to do to get a higher score on your NBME. Because if you're scoring less than a 230, which means if you got a 220, like I said, the score can go plus or minus 10 points, which means you could actually score a 210 in your real exam. So just take a break, or study stronger and harder, and then give the exam. Things to consider if you're not getting an enough score is, what are your weak areas? So you have to strengthen your weak areas with your NBME. So this is something that most test takers don't know, is that the score depends not just on your mean, but as variance. So if you're performing really well on some subjects and really poor on other subjects, your score will be on the lower side. However, if you perform good or okay on all subjects, your score will be on the higher side. So narrow your subject performance, and then you get a higher score. You have to analyze why you're getting the questions wrong. Is your knowledge deficient? Are you making a silly mistake? Do you not know this? Did you forget some of it? Really, analysis can help you find what your weak areas are, or find the things that you do wrong in your exam, and can help you better or improve your score. Biostatistics is extremely important for your score. So know all of the biostatistics questions that can possibly be asked on the exam, because biostats is really at least 2 or 3 questions from each block will be on biostatistics. And biostats is a very easy subject if you think of it, because it's just a calculation, and there can't be multiple answers to a biostatistic question. It's right, it's wrong, it's wrong. There's not much room for guessing, and it's a very clear cut subject. So if you're strong in biostats, you will improve your score. And lastly, you can read experiences and talk to the right people and get a guidance. Get an analysis of why you're getting it wrong or getting the score wrong. Have you stretched your prep for too long, or have you not been studying as hard as you should, or is one subject weaker than the others? Is there any is there anything in your prep that you should be doing that you're not doing, or is there anything in your prep that you shouldn't be doing and you've been doing for all this while? So talk to the right people, Um, these are links and experiences of people who have scored amazing scores. The first link is my USMLE experience. I gave the exam in 2014, so my experience might not be the most helpful for recent test takers since it's 2018 right now, and um, the exam pattern might have changed a little, and the resources that people are using right now might have changed. I haven't read my score on the blog. So here's the thing about people in general is that they don't ask numbers. So things to not ask people is what is their age, what is their salary, what is their USMLE score. And it's just not a nice thing to ask because like things like these are really private. I haven't ruled my score because I don't want my score to increase or decrease my credibility. If it's absolutely killing you to know my score, you can email me on marikawesome@gmail.com and I'll tell you my score. It's not a big deal or anything. Lastly, we have created a USMLE mentorship program for those who want to help others out. What my friend found out is like people are at different stages in their journey. So if somebody's applying for the match and if you ask them questions about the step one exam, they might not be, really helpful or, answer the questions right. So this mentorship program is for those who are at different stages in their USMLE journey, and it is like a one-to-one kind of a program where you could help someone and someone can help you. um, we are trying to just like polish this program out, and we've started a mentorship program for USMLE step 1 test takers who are just preparing for the USMLE step 1 exam right now, and our amazing authors have been helping them in this process. To be a part of the mentorship program, you just have to email me on medicalawesome@gmail.com, and we'll add you to the WhatsApp group where you can take guidance from people who've taken the exam recently. To be a part of this program, however, you have to promise us that you will also be a mentor once you are done taking help from others, which means so that the goodness is turned and passed on to others, and that's what is important, I feel. Let me know if you have any other questions, and stay awesome. Mayos are things that I feel Mayos are things that I felt were applicable to me but might not be applicable to you. I preferred solving them in the random mode because the exam questions I prefer solving my questions in the random mode because the real exam is going to be in random mode, so you could relate to different subjects at different points in your time. However, others might prefer topic wise or subject wise approach. Topic wise and subject wise approach is a good approach because when say you decided to do biochemistry, you read up the material, you solve all the questions on biochemistry, and you really consolidate the subject. However, it's an approach that is not applicable to me because I get really bored studying for one subject for a long period of time. So I need that mix and match of questions. So I cannot do biochemistry for a week. So I prefer doing random mode, but it's really up to you. Time mode, I really I really think you guys should do your questions in the time mode because, like I said, time management is huge in the exam. And if you're missing out a lot of questions, you will. And if you're missing out on a lot of questions, it will affect your score. So do your questions in the time mode. Test taking strategies. Start by reading the last line of the question first and going through the options and then reading the vignette. Now, this strategy may or may not work for some people. Some people think that it's a really stupid strategy, but I think it's kind of helpful because you get an orientation of what the question is trying to ask and then go to the STEM and find the appropriate hints required to answer the question right. Highlight key information as you read. So once you're rereading the question and you're trying to figure out what's in the question, the highlighted information can help you skim through the information quickly. Strike out all the other wrong answers. It avoids missing out on an option. And these are some test taking strategies that I found helpful. Also, the exam is like 7 hours long, so take adequate breaks, stretch, and all of that. The bane of knowledge is to forget. So make notes in your notebook, make notes in your first aid book, and keep revising them. The exam prep is long, and you might study for 3 or 4 months, and then what's the point if you don't remember what you studied in the first month, right? So I really recommend that you keep revising your matter. I do not use Anki flashcards for my step 1 prep, but I found it really helpful for step 2 CK and step 3. It's an app where you can revise things frequently, and if you're standing in a queue or waiting for a bus, you can just revise all your questions. But check them out. NBMEs, UWSAs, and mock exams. NBMEs are really important to help you assess where you stand. NBMEs and mock exams are limited, so do not waste them solving them casually. Do them once when you're really prepared and you're about to give the exam. And once you get a good score, you can go ahead and give the exam. I personally gave 2 mock exams before giving my exam, and they're very accurate. They're designed to estimate your real score, but plus or minus 10 points. So, which means that if you scored a 230, it means that if you scored a 230 on your real exam, if you scored a 230 on your mock exam, it means that you can get plus or minus 10 score in your real exam, which means you have to be aware of a possibility, blah blah blah. Postpone your NBME if your score is less than 230. This is what my senior told me this is an important thing that my senior told me, and I tell you guys, your score is more important than your ego. So let it go, take a break, study, and come back. Things to consider if you're getting a low score. So here's a USMLE etiquette that most people are unaware of. and that is you do not ask for scores. So here's an etiquette that people don't really talk about, is that anything which is related to numbers you do not ask for. Do not ask anybody their age, do not ask them about their paycheck, and do not ask them what their score is. It's just an etiquette. People may or may not be comfortable sharing their scores with you. I've not shared my score on the website because I don't want my credibility to change based on my score. All I can tell you is that if it's absolutely killing you to know my score, you can just email me and I'll tell you my score. It's not a big deal for me, but just only if it's absolutely killing you. The USMLE Mentorship Program is the USMLE Mentorship Program was an idea. The USMLE Mentorship Program is an idea by America's. The USMLE Mentorship Program is an idea by UWSAs author Josefa, who suggested that people may be at different stages of their preparation. The USMLE Mentorship Program is an idea by author of UWSAs Josefa, who suggested that people might be in different stages of their USMLE journey. And if you're asking a person who's applying for the match about the USMLE Step 1 exam prep, it may or may not be very helpful. That person might not be in the appropriate state of mind to give you enough guidance for that exam. And